host chat.
That's what we do. Yeah. So we warm things up and get on board and ready to go.
I know, warm up our voices, me.
Exactly.
So this question, I was thinking, has been around for probably as long as men and women have been around together. Whether
Absolutely.
you came out of somebody's rib or crawled out of the ocean. Can men and women just be friends?
Hmm.
Yes, and there's going to be a lot of ands that are included in this, right, Barry?
Well, yeah, we will talk about it.
So we'd like to welcome you to the newsstreamingnetwork.com, WGSN-DB Going Solo Network Radio, TV, and podcast, #1 Internet Singles Talk Radio. And this is Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry. Hi, Barry.
Hi, Christine. So, yes, good topic today.
Yeah. Barry and I both talked about how we have had opposite sex friends for a long time.
Hmm.
And boy, it takes some very open, honest conversations and ongoing conversations. And yeah, boy, it's so interesting because there is often just a normal, natural drive that if you really like the person, which is really where every romantic relationship should start, one or more of the people tend to want to move forward and make it more than it is right now as just friends, and that maybe more than the other person wants.
Right. And also, there's the other side of things, which is where somebody gets put in the friend zone because then it looks through the lens of possible relationship partner and dates. That becomes part of the issue too, because there is this discord, same idea as what you're talking about. There's disparate perspective, and one wants to be in a relationship, one doesn't, and has to work out. And also we'll talk about today as well about how do you communicate that in a way that doesn't feel like it's either black and white. It's like, no, there can be negotiation in there too.
Always. I have that frog in my throat again that I had last week. I don't know it. Maybe it's the podcast. We'll see.
Back to visit.
Yeah. So one of the things I've learned, and I was so grateful that I personally learned this because it certainly had me go out with my late husband a second time, is if women generally have a big sexual chemistry, physical reaction to a guy, we will often stop being our most authentic self. We start thinking, oh, I can't say that because he won't like it. I can't ask that because what if I don't like the answer to the question? Or I can't tell him that about me because what if he doesn't ask it or like my answer? And you really do want to have those conversations. And I see the resistance because when you're having this big reaction, you don't want to upset the apple cart. Where on the other side of the equation is, I've always asked women, well, have you had this guy that really likes you? He really does. And he's working really hard to be more than friends. And you really just only want him to be friends. And if you look back, you're probably your most authentic self with him. You don't care what you say. I mean, it's not like you're impolite, but you say your truth. You see him sometimes without any makeup. You'll have a disagreement with him comfortably. And so that's a lot of times where the disparity can happen and where people can get super confused about why am I in this zone and not that one?
Oh yeah, I mean, because that I talked about this before as well about how oftentimes the first date is such a pretense because you put on your best behavior and do a certain way. You don't show them any chinks in your armor or any weaknesses because you don't want them to see anything wrong with you. Because you want to win their approval and hopefully get a second date. And in some ways, when you make friends first, because you are being more transparent, more authentic, more relaxed, more natural, the chemistry can fade away, but the attraction can build because you start realizing this person is everything you want, but you didn't have to fight for it or compete for it or try to prove yourself for it. So it's much easier. So there's lots of benefits of making friends first, which we talked about before on other shows as well.
And it's exactly what happened when I met my late husband. I was so attracted to who he was and how I felt with him and the way he thought and the way he treated me. And I was not at all having any chemical reaction to him at all, except that I liked who he was. And I really looked forward to seeing him again. But there wasn't any, oh my God, I can't wait to kiss him, or wow, what would it be like to have sex with him, which I'd certainly dated that way before I decided to stop dating that way. And so we built this amazing bait for me because he, and as should be for men, you all want to be physically attracted to us in the beginning. And he says, yes, he was. And then it was good for me to not be so that I could pace myself. And I said I could only be myself with him. I could only be honest and open. And I was amazed at some of the things I just said to tell him who I was and to ask for things I really needed and wanted. I'd just go, wow. It was so freeing and empowering. And he was a really good sport about it. He said
Well,
sometimes I made his head really hot.
that's the thing is for us as men, because sometimes we have that single focus, that sort of desire and the be one track mind. It's almost like we put up with a lot of stuff to get to what we think is the destination. And so in some ways to let go of that entirely is an effort for us to do just as men, because we're, as you said, it's like we have to be attractive visually. That's one of the things that drives our motivations. And so to get to know somebody besides their appearance is a good thing to have, but sometimes it's challenging to let go of the target we're focused on, that goal we want, which is sex or whatever it's going to be, and just to get to know the person as a person. Because then you can always go back to it. The challenges for us men oftentimes is to be patient enough and willing to get to know somebody first. Because the thing is almost like if we're locked in on the fact we're attracted to them, it's almost like, well, good, you already know that one day. You can move to the other part with get to know who they are as well. That's not a normal operational style.
No.
So,
yep. Yeah, when I was working with John Gray, the first 2 years of my coaching, almost 16 years ago, he talked about how it's best if women get connected emotionally, mentally, physically, and then spiritually, and that men generally do physical, then emotional, then mental, then spiritual. So part of our job as women is to do the pace slower for our own benefit, so that we get to know them emotionally and mentally, and we allow them to get to know us emotionally and mentally, so that we see, do we have other connections besides the physical? Because if you only want to be friends with someone, good to qualify why and how you're going to make it stay there. Certainly talk about that conversation. And if you would only want to have sex with them, a friends with benefits, then it's good to communicate that clearly as well. And we'll talk about those conversations. But it's good to know from the beginning, at least what you think you want in the beginning. Often we'll change our mind, but at least start out saying, this is what I think I want right now. And what are you thinking you want right now?
Right. And I know you have the system or the rule about 3 dates before you actually do anything.
For me personally.
Which is an interesting. So I date with somebody last week, a first date, not the second one, but a first date where she said, her one is 5, like 5 dates before she does anything. So everyone has their own system. So the reality is that to postpone quite inevitability of the physical thing, if that's what you think is going to happen, to get other things on the table first, it adds more context, more content, and more value to the journey as well. Because the challenges for men, again, because we're somebody who's single focused, we almost ignore everything except that physical thing. And it can be challenging because that's not what the woman wants usually, because she does want the rest of the conversation as well, the rest of the picture filled in, so that she's not just going, okay, just to go to bed and that's it sort of thing. So yeah, having that patience, willingness, and trust in the process is a good level to work with.
Yep. So it's really helpful from the woman's point of view for us to figure out, since mine is 3 and hers is 5, to say out loud, these are the kind of things I need to get to know about you. Here's the kind of conversations I would like to have. Here's the kind of questions I'll be asking. And I'd love for you to ask those same questions back and others, because I need to confirm whether it's political or religion or lust for travel or family time, or how much time do you actually have to spend with each other, or what your plans are for the future. That's really important to get out on the table about, this is what I expect from my life in the future and what I expect from a partner, and tell me what your expectations are for you and a partner, way before any physicality starts, I think.
Yeah, and definitely it's good to have the willingness to stop and just go back and say, okay, so what I'm actually interested in as well, what is it I really want? Is there more to it than just that one thing? Because it's easy to just default to one focus point and stay there. But to step back and go, hang on a second, what else is going on here? What else is available here? What's possible here? Is so much more rich and so much more available for fulfillment that can basically make that end goal much more joyful and much more celebratory when you do get there, if you do get there, than just to, again, stay single focused. I mean, I keep making the same point, but that's the truth about remembering that there's so much more to relating and connecting and relationship and friendship than just the one thing.
Yes. And it's one of the ways you really can keep monitoring whether or not you really do want to get to know them better.
Yeah.
Emotionally, mentally, and physically. So to figure out what are your things, core things that you have in common, what are the things that they're bringing, I've never heard of that before, I want to learn more, that say, yes, I want to keep, because that was the thing with my late husband. I just couldn't wait to see him the next time. I looked forward to every time I was going to see him, where I've certainly had people that I've met and we've had enough of a conversation that I didn't want to see them again, period. There just wasn't enough of any things in common. And then there really have been a couple that I go, wow, I'd really like to be friends with you because there's these things that don't match, but there's these things that are really interesting. So I've had this guy that we have weekly conversations on Zoom, and we come up with these like questionnaire things that we ask each other. It's been really fun, but we will never, ever be each other's romantic partner. But it's kind of fun to be these little placeholders for each other because the conversations have been very interesting. He's a Mensa guy. He wrote this interesting book, and he's been really open and interesting about what I'm doing. So it's been a kind of a fun thing to have a conversation with somebody as regrettable as he was, to not be more than friends. So far, we're doing it. We'll see how long it lasts.
Yeah, that's I'll say this. It can be interesting also because for us men having a single focus, that when we don't get that, we turn off and we move on and then we're done, sort of thing. So to then have friendship is not going to stay true to ourselves, which we want to talk about as well, because it's sometimes challenging. Because if we focus on the one thing we don't get, then all the other stuff that woman has is no interest to us. So we sort of go, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
But I have so many female friends that were never meant to be relationship partners, just we were friends. So in simple answer to the title, yes, men and women can just be friends. But also there wasn't an attraction there, and I valued who they were in my life, so I keep them around as friendships. In fact, some of them are business colleagues, peers, etc., etc. So there's room for that for both. I guess that in a lot of ways, the question people may have on their minds, and we talk about it when we just be friends, is when we first meet. Because I said at the beginning, a lot of times for us men, we get put in the friend zone very quickly, and so we feel like we're stuck somewhere we can't get out of, and so there's no change allowed.
Mm-hmm.
And so for women who meet men who don't feel safe to jump right in, or they want to take their time, they may unintentionally put us in the friend zone to establish a baseline to start with, and we may not think there's anything available beyond that, but she knows there may be. And so there's sometimes this missed piece of information, because as society teaches us certain rules of how to do things, and the friend zone is like the purgatory that men get put into, for want of a better word. There's never any hope in that. So being put in the friend zone, like, that's the end of the road, forget it, I don't want to play anymore. Whereas a lot of times for women, if a man is in the friend zone, for her, that's where she feels most comfortable, because to know the guy decides if she wants to move out of the friend zone. But we don't know that all the time.
No. And we women often are not honest with ourselves. And even if we're honest with ourselves, we're not honest with you, because the big reason I hear, I don't want to hurt their feelings. Well,
Yeah.
leading somebody on hurts their feelings a lot more. That's what I explained. So the thing about my husband was I kept moving forward, little tiny steps at a time, because that's so me. And I kept saying that, because after 2 months, he said, I love you and would love to marry you. And I said, yeah, I can't say that yet. And I don't know that I won't. And as we kept moving forward, I said, I'm moving forward. I haven't stopped. I've certainly not gone back. I'm moving forward. Your patience is going to be tried. I'm just letting you know that ahead of time. And I will let you know if anything inside of me changes, because he really trusted, because I kept telling him the truth in the nice things and the hard things. He knew that I was trustworthy, that I would not lead him on. I would not tell him. And it was a very challenging thing to learn to do. I had started really practicing this more back in 2001. And then I met him in 2005. So I was better at it. I still could feel the temptation, even though all I could do was be honest with him. But I could hear the little voice behind me going, but what if it hurts his feelings and he goes away? I need to be honest with this man. I cannot not be honest with. He was the perfect healing partnership for me to really solidify telling my truth. So it's the best advice I can give to all the ladies, even if it's hard, even if it's scary. In your nicest way possible, you need to be honest about where you are and where you aren't, and where you imagine, truthfully, you could be. And then
Right.
just keep yourself and them informed as you're moving along, because it's so hard on you guys. It really is.
It is, again, because we are tend to be single focused, it's so challenging because we don't know or we don't believe there's another option available. And so to be okay with what's not happening, in a sense, is the biggest ask we can have for ourselves and the biggest challenge we have to trust that, because we don't know. And so there is this internal clock, not clock so much, internal focus point to have a certain result. And when we don't get it here, it's like, okay, let's move to the next one and the next one and the next one. So we want to keep searching for the fulfillment of that goal. And so we miss opportunities sometimes, like you're saying, because what we were told wasn't the result we wanted. We go, okay, next we want the other person, rather than staying with the one that we just met, because there's possibly so much more available than we're willing to find out. So yeah, it's sometimes the opportunity we get missed with each other because we're not trusting what we hear.
I believe that that certainly happened to me personally in the past. And I've
Yeah.
certainly heard that it's happened to my clients in the past. And holding that tension is really a challenge. It's very much a challenge. And the other part of it is what makes it worth it? Because you guys are so clear about your return on investment of your time, energy, and money. You just are. You're so good about focusing on that, generally better than most women. Women who are staying very clearly in their masculine can think a little bit more about that.
Mm-hmm.
You always want to know, is this worth it? Am I going to reach my goal? If I'm going to, because that's the thing that my husband kept saying, why he hung in there, because he really believed me that I said I would let him know if I couldn't, and that I kept saying more, and I kept, engaging more. I engaged more verbally, and then I engaged a little, certainly more physically, and kept saying, okay, I think this will be when it's going to be. And I would keep my deadlines pretty 100%, that I just needed to do this. I needed to hear this, do this, and have this much time. Those were my 3 things and it was so fun to be so clear about what I needed to hear, what I needed to do with him, and how much time needed to transpire. So that's why I say I spent 4 years really working on this. And that's why you and I want everybody to go faster than that. But that's why I really know this can work, that we can form this new way of talking, this new way of thinking, this new way of believing in ourselves, that we're going to know what's the right thing. And then we just have to get brave enough to say it out loud.
Oh, yeah. Bravery is key, definitely.
It really is.
So commercial coming up. So do you want to do a quick?
Yes. So if this has intrigued you about, would you like to get out of the friend zone? Would you like to put somebody in the friend zone? Would you like to take somebody out of the friend zone? I'd be happy to talk to you about that. So the best way to get a hold of me is to go to my website, which is www.theperfectcatch.com. Scroll to the middle of my page. You'll see what's holding you back from love questionnaire. Click on that. It's 10 brief questions about where your challenge is now, where you would like to be that would be better. And then you'll have access to my calendar to schedule a personal private conversation with me. You can also schedule or send me an email at Christine@theperfectcatch.com. And how would they do all that with you, Barry?
Well, similarly, you can also get in touch with me through my website, which is barryselby.com. And in the top of the screen, there's a button you can click, which says you go onto my calendar and you schedule a chat with me. So you click on that button, it takes you to my calendar and also has you fill out a form, which is probably a dozen questions. I can remember exactly how many questions it is now. But similarly to Christine, it's a questionnaire that basically gives you a chance to answer and provide me with information about you and what you're looking for, and we'll see if we can work together. And by scheduling the chat, we have a 20-minute Zoom call, and you can see how I work, and I can find out what you're looking for and see if we work together. And similarly, you can also send me an email at barry@barryselby.com if you have any other questions, thoughts, or you want to talk further, and we'll tell you more about what we do at the end of the show.
Yes. So we're going to go off to a commercial for this wonderful station that promotes and provides us this forum to do our podcast. And we'll be back shortly to talk about, can men and women just be friends?
And we'll go even further. We'll see you soon.
Oh, yeah. Hi, we're back with Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry, and this is Can Men and Women Just Be Friends?
Mhm.
So, one of the things that happened to me in my life is my first husband, I was divorced and then married again and was widowed. My first husband and I were friends with another couple, and we did lots of stuff with them for years and years and years. And then my husband and I got divorced, and then I think it was a couple years later that our friends got divorced. And so the guy and I started just doing stuff as friends. We'd go to the movies and out to dinner and talk about what was going on in our lives, our dates, our jobs. And then we looked at each other and thought, could this work? So we did actually have a romantic relationship for 2 years. And then it really wasn't. We tried. It was so fun and lovely, but it just really was. We weren't each other's people. And we went back to being friends. And cumulative, he died earlier this year. We were friends for over 50 years. And the going back to being friends was, I guess I thought it would be harder, or I thought it would be easier in some ways. So we really had to stop talking for a short while and lick our wounds, and then come back and talk about the missed opportunity and the future that we thought we would have. And then we went back to being friends, and we went back to going to the movies and talking about our dates. And he celebrated that I got married to my late husband and even came and visited a couple of times. He lives in Arizona now. But it was so strange because I don't know that how often that happens. And I felt very blessed that I could see how, with both people really being open and honest about their feelings and really laying it all on the table, that we could successfully be really go back to being the good, because we had a really good foundation of being friends before. It worked out just fine. It was amazing.
I was thinking back on my relationships in the past, and there was one relationship where we didn't. Well, basically, when we broke up, she went back east with a family because she had a couple of kids. She was widowed. We had a great connection, but I saw her maybe 2 years after we broke up. We went across paths in a common location. And she was in a new relationship. I wasn't, but she was in a new relationship. But it was so wonderful to see her again. And it felt like the love didn't change, just the chemistry did. And it became interesting to sort of be in a place where I just care for her deeply and grateful she'd moved on and found a new relationship. But there was no like, oh, if only we had or something like that. I was actually grateful there was no regrets in there. I was lucky about that. Another relationship partner, although that was much more of a fling when we were together, much more of a very much chemistry based. We saw each other and we get along and we're friends, but the love isn't there like it was before. So it's just the quality of relationships do change and shift a lot of times based on how it started initially not having straight basis to build from. So for me, looking back, I don't think there's anyone I look back and go, I'd never want to see them again in my life ever, like ex-partners. And in fact, I've said quite a few times that the last breakup I had, the woman who broke up with me loudly, I'll put it that way, in 2000, the end of 2006, who inspired me to do this work. I said, and I know our ex-husband and I are friends. We see each other once in a while. She moved out of town. He didn't. I said to him, "It's like I'd love to see her again one of these days, just to simply thank her for being the propellant that put me on this journey. Even though I never want to be with her again, because it was not a good relationship, but it was the impetus that was required for me to move on with a swift kick in the pants by her to get me where I'm going. So in some ways, I have gratitude for her, but no affection. So the friendship piece is an interesting spectrum to be on because it can be based on different quality, different criteria. And look back at some of my exes and look at and see whether this friendship would have been is available or a deep love is available, where some of there's nothing at all. So it's not like there must be a certain way of doing things. It's always different.
Yes, and there is the instance where one person still really wants to be in love and be attached, and the other person just doesn't. And I've not seen that work. In my personal experience, me personally and friends and clients, I've not heard of it working well. It usually ends up that they can't be friends. I'm
Right.
sure it can happen, and I would love for somebody to tell me about how it really did successfully happen for them when one person really still had a lot of feelings and the other of the love. So you say you care, but it's not I
Yeah.
still am creating a future with you. I don't want to see you or hear about you with somebody else. That would I have seen that not work. It wouldn't work for me. It hasn't worked for me for either side if one of us felt that way in my personal relationships. And most of the time when I talk to clients, it hasn't worked for them either.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is that this friendship thing, because I have just, friendships, lots of friendships with women, but the range of those friendships is very diverse. Some friends I'm totally like, we hang out, we can be close, we can hug, we connect, we're great. And some friends we just talk on the phone. And so the spectrum, the array of friendships is very diverse, that has no chemistry or no desire to be in bed with any one of them. But the chemistry piece is interesting because it's somehow, being single, and being this far along the journey in the work I do, when I'm out in the world, I notice women through the lens of attraction at the same time I'm noticing in the context of being a coach. It's really interesting how much is this dualistic viewpoint. And so what I am very clear about, being a straight, healthy, heterosexual man, is that I see women through the lens of chemical attraction. Initially, it's what gets my attention, just the way it is.
Yeah.
But I don't act on that now. I really spend my time stepping back just to observe who they are and witness and find out how they interact with the world. Because sometimes that can tell a lot more about a person than just how they look. And so that can either make it be like, I want to go find out more about this person is, or I'm glad I didn't act on my intention, step further back. And so for me, what I'm noticing is one of the gifts I'm glad I've cultivated over time is that I don't have to act on the attraction when I meet somebody, meet a woman. And especially because I know I went for a period of time where it was almost like guaranteed, if I was attracted to a woman, she was already in a relationship. Like I met a woman out in the world, it was a party or a social event or a business event, wherever it was, and I felt attracted to them, I almost was like, I can guarantee she's with somebody. There's something about her I know. It's like what attracted me is about her unavailability or something like that, And so I've learned how to be much more circumspect and much more patient, because I don't want to presume when I meet somebody because I'm attracted to them, they will be attracted to me in return, because it is not often the case,
That is the perfect story because that is such a male point of view. So I'm going to tell you the female side, because I've been coaching a number of women lately because it's your drive, you're bold. You men have so much more energy about focusing. Yes, I'm going to go talk to her. I've got some attraction. I want to go stare in her eyes. I want to see if I can make her laugh. Where women, we're more about, being on the edge and waiting for him to come. So I've got a couple of pretty bold women that I'm coaching. And so they've been going places and noticing a man that looks interesting, doesn't have a ring on, isn't standing there with a woman, and they're going up and saying hello to him. And it's been so much fun because I just said it's practice. It's just practice. It's this thing that men know how to do naturally. It doesn't always work out smoothly, even for you guys. You're just more bold about it. You make that walk of shame, possible shame, across the floor when you were in junior high to that big pack of women. And if they vote no, you have to walk all the way back. You're just used to it. It's horrible and awful. And you do it anyway because you think we're so adorable. And we women, it's not our normal, natural way to do it. And so what I say is, the percentage of men that would not be thrilled that a woman came up and talked to them is like 0.5%.
Yep.
Even if they're married, even if they're involved with somebody, they're just going to think it's so cool that this pretty woman just came up and said, hi, and what brought you here? And wow, isn't this an interesting band? So I've got 2 of them right now that are doing this and they're having the best time.
I love it.
So it's fun that you're curbing your natural thing and I'm shooing them out to go do this thing that doesn't feel so natural for them. But you might make a friend in the offing, right? Just like this. And then you never know where it might lead.
This is the thing. It's like, someone who says they've got enough friends is lying usually, because there's always room for more friends. So to meet somebody new who's of the opposite sex, if you're straight or whatever your preference is, that doesn't work out to be a relationship partner and they become a friend instead, isn't necessarily a step down or a negative thing. So this whole conversation in a lot of ways is about, not so much can men and women just be friends, is how can men and women just be friends? Because there is a question about how do we connect to each other without the overtone or the distraction of wanting to do something physical when you don't have that available. Because that's the biggest challenge for a lot of men, is to have female friends that they can trust and be safe with and not be driven by the dicks, to be blunt,
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Gary got to bring up sex before Christine. This is so fun.
Surprise.
I'm coaching a new guy who says he watches and waits. He wants to see at what point one of us brings it up. It just I knew it would make you laugh. So the
Yeah.
other thing that's been happening when they've been doing this, because I've encouraged them to say, what other things do you go to that are like this? If you're there at music or, wine tasting, what other things do you go to? And the thing that I know about you guys is that if we're not your person, you might know somebody that's our person, and you are better at introducing generally than women, because women have a competitive thing where the guys are like, if she's not mine, please, I'll find you somebody. I know somebody. So these women are fired up about doing this because there's all these benefits. And yes, to make a guy friend that you go places with as a friend, you'll feel safe. You make sure everybody knows that you're both just friends so that both of you don't look off the market. I have another woman that's been doing that for a while. She's had a friend for a while. He's actually friends with her ex-husband. Everybody's very friendly. They go play golf together. They go listen to music together, and they're very clear about they're not together. So then they'll talk to other people when they're there. But she says she feels so safe having this guy friend with her.
Yep. It's almost like being
there's lots of benefits to having you guys with us.
Well, it's like being a wing woman in a way for the person. It's almost like you're being their best salesperson.
Yeah, because if a guy wants to know, he's going to go, oh, yeah, she's smart and interesting, and no, we're not each other's people, but boy, you'd be lucky to have her. I mean, guys are really good about that.
Yeah. The only thing is, and this is just personal for me, because a lot of my clients have gone through abuse and other things too, is that I get very protective of my female friends too. So if I'm going to listen to a man, I got to make sure I vet the man first for their sake. So I actually become almost like the gatekeeper, because I have such a desire to make sure that any female friends of mine are respected, because I don't want to. And it's interesting because I watch this happen. I've shared before on the podcast about being put on dates by some of my matchmaking friends, and I sort of wonder about what do they think of me if that's the person they put me with. So that's in my mind as well. Whenever I think about who would I put this woman with as a friend of mine, because I want to make sure they're a good match. Because otherwise, she may look at me and go, "What do you think? Who are you thinking about me? If you think that's the person I should be with?" So, yes, referring people is great, and be aware of what you might have. What might be the fallout if you don't do it in a smart way.
And the thing that I learned about men is that you have perfect radar for whether he's a good man or a bad man. Like, I can generally suss out if a woman's got a pretty high developed bitchy side to her pretty fast, in a couple minutes. You guys generally are under a minute. Yeah, not a good guy. And we often will argue with you if he's really cute. Well, really, yeah, he really isn't. And it's not because I want you, it's because I don't want him to have you. But this is a good guy. Go talk to him. You are the best resource for that. I trust men 100% to tell me yes, no. I mean, not necessarily is he my type, the yes person, but I really trust your no. Nope, not a good guy. I know right away. And we need to trust you 100%.
I have found women not always listen to that advice and then come back to me afterwards going, I wish I'd listened to you. And it's not like I go, see, I told you so. It's more like, I wish they'd listened to me, because I don't want them to get hurt. And it is one of the things that for me, it hits me hard in my heart when I hear from women who've been hurt by men that I know, friends of mine even. I'm not going to go up and beat them up for it. It's not my thing, but I'll definitely do my best to say, don't ever cross that line again, because it's not healthy for you. So yeah, it's interesting, because part of the challenge we talked about this show before about is we get caught up in our patterns and what drives us to meet somebody, because we're not necessarily going for a highest viewpoint. So having somebody else be that wing person, having a good male friend for the women who will sort out a good choice for you, may not be matching what you think you want, because your radar is guiding you towards something that is more like your old patterns that you don't want to do anymore, but you don't want to break it. So having somebody else do the seeking for you, which is why matchmakers do what they do, can be a more ideal way of doing things, because that way the person isn't looking through your lens anymore. So you might be somebody surprising to you who's not like you were the ones you were with before, and vice versa with men and women. So
yeah, it's too bad if we want to learn the hard way and not listen to you the first time, and hopefully we'll listen to you the second time.
Yeah, it gets interesting.
It's so interesting. And we women can certainly suss out the women that aren't good for you. And
Right.
it's easier if we can decide that we don't want you first.
Yeah.
I have found I found across the board, I'm going to say it, it's harder for women to introduce men. I'm sure there's lots of women out there will tell me I've introduced men to all sorts of women. Great. I hope there becomes more of them. That's my goal. I have heard of less women that are willing to introduce their girlfriends to men than men that are willing to their women friends to other friends of them that are male. It's just the way of the world. I'm just going to say that out loud.
It is, yeah. It's an interesting social experiment to have this experience. Because I'm just reflecting back now, thinking of other friends of mine who've assumed that the person they put me in mind with would be with their friends. I look and go, did they not know who I was? There's something very off about that. So in that context, say proceed with caution, because you might get feedback you didn't expect.
No, give them the list or something, right?
Yeah, that's a good start.
So, wow, have you had friends that you didn't want to be, or people that you wanted to put in the friend zone and you didn't know how to do it? I mean, this is so much potential landmines and quicksand, and we'd be happy to help you navigate it more successfully and with less danger. Because as you've heard, we've both had really successful really good, loving, caring friend relationships with the opposite sex. And hopefully you could have that too. And my husband was fine that I had this friend. That's the other thing, that you have such a solid friendship that your new love is like, yeah, sure, fine, I don't care. That's the other piece. So if you'd like to have a bigger conversation about this with either Barry or I, as I mentioned, the best way to get a hold of me is to go to my website, which is www.theperfectcatch.com. Go fill out the questionnaire of what's holding you back from love on the homepage and schedule a conversation with me through my online calendar. Or send me an email at Christine@theperfectcatch. And while you're on that homepage, if you scroll to the bottom, you'll see access to all my social media, Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and Twitter and Pinterest and YouTube. And on that YouTube, you can now see almost 250 YouTube podcasts that Barry and I have done together, plus some that I did prior to that. I'd also love for you to join my mailing list. Then you'll automatically get a repeat of the podcast every week right there in your mailbox. And also, I'd be so happy if you downloaded my ebook. It's The Perfect Catch, Learn How to Be One and How to Attract One. It has 60 pages of lots of dating advice. You can just pick out chapters that look interesting to you. All I ask is that you tell me what you thought about it after. What did you learn? What do you wish I would put in a second volume? And how does people get a hold of you, Barry?
Well, similar to Christine, I have a website, as mentioned at the break. You go to my website, barryselby.com, and at the top of the screen, you can click on there, get on my calendar, and have a conversation with me to see where you're going, what you're looking for, and if I can help you with that. At the bottom of the homepage, there's an opt-in right there. You can get my email list. So, like Christina, send out a weekly email with a replay of the show. So if you didn't catch the show live, you get a replay in your inbox with the video you can watch right there and then. In the middle of the screen is the first of my two quizzes. I have two quizzes that I basically created. One of discover if you're ready for a relationship, and the other quiz, which I'll tell you about in a moment, which is about if you have a good relationship with yourself to be a better partner. So the button in the middle of the screen, which is take the quiz, is I can't remember the questions there are in there. I think it's about a dozen questions in there that basically navigate you through the answers about whether you're ready for a relationship or not, and what's in the way, what's working, what isn't working. And I'll also send you a follow-up email, which you can get the next steps and guidance, and I'll also check in with you and see how you're doing with it. So that's one thing. The second quiz, as I mentioned, you can't click on it. You have to go to barryselby.com/self-quiz, because that's the self-assessment. And basically, it really does you look in the mirror, and that's 10 different sections about self-relationship, including self-trust, self-confidence, self-approval, etc., that you can look at and really have an honest look in the mirror, so to speak. And when you do take that quiz, you get a downloadable PDF that gives you a whole bunch of steps, keys, tips you can take with you to use in your life, and an invitation, of course, to reach out to me and have a conversation as well. Also, my website is my book, which is a bestseller. It's been on Amazon for a dozen years. And if you go to barryselby.com/book, you can click on that. Also, I just updated it. There's a new AI-generated review of my book. I decided to do update, make it more current. So there's another review on there. It's a bit longer. It's fun. So when I get a preview of my book, click on the audio that's at the top of the screen. That lets you listen to the replay of my book. Sorry, replay of the review of my book. That is two, I would call them NPR voices. They sound very intelligent, smart, but it's all AI generated. It's very fun being able to listen to my book. And if you want to get my book, click on the button at the bottom of the screen, because that'll take you to the Amazon link, or you get the ebook version from my website. and work like that. A whole bunch of stuff on my site you can peruse and browse as well. But you can find me on social media under my name, Barry Selby, on YouTube, on Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Blue Sky, and
X.
Oh, and it's the real Barry Selby on Instagram and Threads. And like Christine on YouTube, I have replay of all these shows, almost 250 shows, but also have 1,000 plus other videos on this. If you want to watch more content about what I talk about, definitely check out my YouTube channel for sure. I think it's everything.
Yes. So we're here live every Thursday at 1 o'clock Pacific and 4 o'clock Eastern and all the times in between. If you want to watch live and submit a question, we're happy to answer it on live and air. You can also watch us on YouTube, on your TV, and on Roku. And if you want to take us with you, how do they do that, Barry?
Well, the thing is, this show is also a podcast. We mentioned they called it a podcast, but it's really a video we shoot first, but then becomes a podcast. So if you have a podcast platform, if you listen to Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Amazon, wherever you listen to podcasts, our show is there for you to listen to, and you can listen to all the shows you want to listen to. Great if you're driving around doing things where you can't look at the screen. So you can listen to us because, frankly, when you're watching us, we don't move that much anyway. So if you listen to us anyway, you can enjoy our voices in your ear. So either way, watching us on video replay or listening to us on audio podcast, you'll get value and listen to our shows. We have, say, over 200 plus shows out there now you can listen to, and it will change your dating life. So definitely follow us, subscribe, all those different things, and share us with your friends as well.
That's the way to do it, right? Thank you, Barry. So we'll be back next week with some more interesting help with your dating and relationships. Bye for now.
Take care.